So if you've been following the tariff tennis, I don't know like what it was. Trump announced a series of sweeping tariffs, 25% Mexico, 25% Canada, 10% China on most goods. Then like 3 days later, made a deal with Canada and Mexico that basically like, all right, you're going to do the things that you were already going to do. We'll take our tariffs back for the most part. Mexico is sending a force of 10,000 troops to the border. You're seeing this shit online where it's like, oh, like all Trump got was what Biden had already given or what Biden had already gotten. Like that's only partially true. Mexico is sending a force of 10,000 troops to the border, supposedly to curb
our
fentanyl.
border. It's important to point this out. This is because the thing is like what I read about this is that there was already 15,000 troops at a different border.
Right.
So at the borders coming into Mexico, not to go to our nation, there was already troops.
Right.
And people are counting that as what we already gave him. But he's saying 10,000 to our border. So it's important to point that out. It is.
Yeah. So like, I don't want to pretend for the purpose of accuracy that Trump didn't get any concessions out of this. He did get concessions out of this. There's a meme floating around that he didn't get any concessions. That's just inaccurate. Trump did get some concessions out of this. He got much less out of Canada. I think there wasn't really a whole lot of
There wasn't
give
anything
out of
really. Yeah, they got the same thing he asked for. So.
So that's not really much of anything. But now there's a fucking trade war with China.
And I also think too, this should not be overlooked. Even if you got what you were planning on getting anyway from Canada, your goodwill with your closest ally for many, many years is shot.
Completely
It's shot. And if you're going to keep doing this, I saw the conservative argument for this was that they were saying, well, Trump got what he wanted. What he wanted, he knew that he wanted to get the things that they already promised, but he wanted to force their hand to make sure they went through with it. And that's what those tariffs are there for. And I'm like, no, that's what friendship is there for.
Yeah.
That's what allyship between two nations is there for. You talk to them and try to convince them to do it without trying to damage them economically. And damage their businesses that exist in there economically, because the sentiment from Canada is fuck you then. How about I never fucking do business with you? And I'll tell you what, there's been a huge bunch of people all over Canada that are now boycotting American products, boycotting American services, and basically saying, okay, well, I can't ever trust you again. That's not something you want to create on the world stage. So, maybe he did get them to say that they were going to do the thing that they were going to do. And he said, well, I'm going to keep this tariff over your head like the sword of Damocles, waiting for you to fuck up until I can fucking cut that thing. No, what you should do is try to convince them to do it because it's in the best interest of both our nations, like a normal person would do with foreign policy, and not try to use a fucking hammer every time you want to try to get something done.
Why burn down relationships you don't have to burn down?
Trade bridges we've built for years.
It's so stupid.
It's so short-sighted, but it tells you everything you need to know about why government and business, why a businessman shouldn't be in government. Because to him, the only thing that matters is the quarterly report. And the people who follow him and will lick up his fucking ball sweat, those people all think he did a great job. But if you look at the overall thing that's happening, it's damaging to our economy, because we are now a little less sure about whether or not we're going to be able to do business down there. And so now suddenly they're going to find other trade partners where they can sell their goods, and there isn't going to be that threat of tariffs. So it's just bad business. It's great in the short term. It got what you needed in the short term. It's terrible in sort of the relationship building part of business.
This is so, and so let's talk about China now. So we put this 10% tariff on Chinese goods, and China was like, awesome. Guess what, asshole? You need us too. So now we're in a fucking trade war with China. That's just where we're at now. And who knows where that's going to go, except for your shit's going to cost more.
Everything's going to cost more.
So
no matter what, everything's going to cost more. Even if these tariffs get repealed, your shit's still going to cost more because those companies aren't going to pull their prices down.
Yeah, man.
After it's over. So you've just increased the cost of everything forever.
Yeah. For
in
what?
perpetuity.
For fucking what?
Yeah.
For fucking what?
Because so Trump can feel strong, and all the people who voted for him can feel like they're right for a few minutes.
You know, I think what's happening is like clearly, I mean, it's indisputable that China is in ascendancy right now as an international power, right? Their ascendance as a technological power is certainly on display with DeepSeek. Their ascendance as a military power is at this point unquestioned. In fact, many would argue that their Navy is the best Navy in the world, not second best, but the best Navy in the world. You know, their ascendance as an economic power is unquestioned. And I understand that gives a lot of people really justifiable pause, right? China is not a nation known for its positive human rights record, for example. It is not committed to democracy, freedom, liberty, things along those lines, things we value. So I understand.
Do we?
Well, things that we have made lip service toward valuing and no longer value. But like what it feels like is Trump is trying to like put China in its place the way you would a subordinate without recognizing that you can no longer treat China like a subordinate. China is not our subordinate. This is not how superpowers, of which China is indisputably one, can or should treat one another. And to our previous point, it's not how we actually will accomplish the things we want.
Sure.
If there was any better example of how short-sighted the mentality is, it's the shutting down of USAID.
Yeah.
USAID is an important intelligence and strategic program across the world. We deliver humanitarian aid so that we can accomplish important political and strategic goals. So it's humanitarian, yes, but it is also very politically valuable to build goodwill, to establish relationships, to build intelligence infrastructure. We get a lot out of it, more than what we put into it. It's like, you know, like my fucking dad used to say, like, you know, you get more with fucking honey than vinegar. Like that's an old saying. It's fucking true. And instead we're just like, pour some vinegar on it.
Yeah, man. Yeah, we're in a position now where we're going to be burning bridges with 3 different countries, which are huge trade partners with the United States. We're going to be, even if they don't have tariffs on it, you're still not going to have the same level of communication and you know, sort of goodwill that you had with 2 of them.
Yeah.
China, if you're going to fight with China, I don't know that you're going to win that fight. And Trump, I think, is just too stubborn and too myopic to recognize that he's going to be outplayed in all this stuff.
For sure.
And you know, he's been talking about tariffs for a long time, and all the people that follow him, they love to talk about how right he is. But man, I think he did irreparable damage to 2 of our really close allies and the people who are literally next to us on a map. He did irreparable damage to those relationships over the last week.
Yeah, honestly, the only hope I have is I hope that when Trump is out of office, I hope that we have a sane leader, and I hope people say, all right, that guy was a fucking lunatic. This is more business as usual.
Yeah.
Like,
how do they trust us though?
I don't know that they'll trust us.
How do they trust us? I mean, he was voted out. He had a fucking insurrection.
Yeah. And
then America put him back in. So how do you trust us again?
I don't know. I don't know, man. It's a good question.
We keep going back to the really bad boyfriend.
Yeah.
At a certain point, you got to cut ties.
Right.